Recently, I shot a couple of scenes for my film, which I've been working on throughout this year whenever I get the chance. In this episode, I want to share a few cinematography tricks with you. How to turn everyday reality into something cinematic just by using light. So why do we even need this? For example, in my case, I wanted to tell a social story but make it feel like an expensive feature film, with minimum gear and a very small crew. And when the goal is to make the image look beautiful, or to use that overused word cinematic, it makes sense to have a few techniques in your toolbox that help transform a real location into something more expressive and visually aesthetic. And that's exactly what we'll talk about. In any scene, before we even start talking about style or aesthetics, the most important thing is to set the visual accents. As a viewer, who am I supposed to follow in the frame? This becomes especially important when the background is very detailed and the actors don't stand out much in terms of brightness or color. So you can easily create that accent with light and composition. Personally, I love using a very simple technique, alternating light and dark in the frame to create a rhythm, a beat of shadow and light. So here's what I did. I added backlight and a side key light for the characters. The space inside the stalls was super tight, but I had this little beast, the Molas X100 RGB. Ji-Yeon sent it over for me to test on a real project. And honestly, I was surprised how powerful such a small light can be, even in daylight conditions. We matched the color temperature of the window light about 4,500 kelvins and mounted the backlight above the two actresses in the frame. That gave me the accent I needed, highlights on the characters against a darker background. But since I also wanted emotions and a sparkle in their eyes, we placed the X100 with a softbox just to the left of the camera for a nice key light. As for the man in the background, he was further away, so we lit him with a stronger 300 watt with softbox, just enough to keep the fixture out of the shot. The result, we didn't blast massive lights through the windows or set up anything overly complicated. Instead, we created the illusion of natural overhead and window light with matching color and exposure. Outdoor scenes can already look stunning, beautiful nature and authentic locations. All of that helps. But again, lighting makes all the difference. Just look how the exact same shot changes with different lighting. We rehearsed 3 takes, but by the time the actors were ready to deliver the right emotion and movement, it started raining. And sure, rain looks beautiful in the frame, but it didn't fit the mood we were going for, so we had to wait it out. Alright, the main concept here is the accent. And outdoors, the best natural accent comes from backlight shooting against the sun, especially on wide shots, because trying to soften such a huge light source from the front or side is quite challenging and expensive by using big frames with textile and extra crew. Sometimes on wide shots, just backlight is enough, but for medium and close-up shots, it makes sense to lift the exposure on the face a bit, by bouncing some sunlight with a foam board while still keeping shadows for depth, or even pushing them further into negative fill. That's where the cinematic feel comes from, choosing the right shooting angle and direction of the sun. I'm sure that if I had shot this with flat front light, the actors would have lost all visual emphasis, and the frame would have looked much flatter. Sometimes locations look really bad, especially when wall colors are too close to skin tones like pink or yellow. Shooting faces against such walls can make the shot flat and make the actor blend in. Here's where the old low-key lighting technique comes in handy. We simply hide all the ugly stuff in deep shadow, and then use light only to sculpt what we need. For this scene, we placed the Molas X100 above the character's head, carefully angled so it didn't hit the wall. With a grid on the softbox, the light became more directional and controllable. I have one small trick here. When you hide the light source completely, the shot can lose realism and feel unmotivated. To avoid that, you can let just a little spill of light hit the wall near the source. If the character is the only thing lit in a dark space, it can start to feel like stage lighting, which isn't always what you want. For this setup, I set the color temperature to a warm 3200 kelvins, so the light felt like a practical lamp in the room. To be honest, I'm usually skeptical about lights of this size, but this one really surprised me. It's not just powerful, it also solved so many issues I usually have with similar lights. Others are bulkier and harder to rig above actors. Also, don't always support different modifiers on a standard mount. So the X100 handled all of that quite easily. From a purely technical perspective, I'd say you can make reality cinematic with 3 things: your camera angle, your use of light, and your use of shadow. I always recommend, and I'll say it again here, when scouting, track the path of the sun and see how natural light falls in the location in the space. The same location can look completely different depending on where the light comes from. And when you do bring in artificial lights, try to build from the natural light that's already there. Add just enough practicals or motivated sources to support it. For more in-depth learning, check out my masterclasses at Andbery Academy. There we go deep into professional techniques for shaping light, contrast, and production design, always using real projects, not just stage tutorials.